Now, at least there is a good opportunity that the girls and women that I am in contact with them, at least they have the opportunity to have some online education.
With also the Afghan women to raise issues concerning Afghanistan. I know that there are a lot of countries who would have wanted this, and I know that there are especially countries who have also really missed Sweden.
Worrying about their mothers, worrying about their sisters, daughters, or other relatives in Afghanistan.
We have a government that has decrees, more than 100 decrees, and in one of the decrees they removed the legal authority of women.
Hej kära vänner! Varmt välkomna! Idag samlas vi på att uppmärksamma 5 år under talibanernas styre i Afghanistan. Och framför allt för att rikta ljuset mot de kvinnor och flickor vars rättigheter, frihet och möjligheter har begränsats av allt mer. Rubriken för kvällens program är Tomma stolar, tystade röster. De 7 tomma stolarna ni ser utanför symboliserar alla de kvinnor som inte längre får ta plats i skolan, på universitet, på arbetsplatsen eller i den offentliga rummet heller. De påminner oss om röster som försöker tystas men som inte får glömmas. Under kvällen kommer vi att ha panelsamtal, musik och korta filmer. Här finns också den vitklädda skyltdukan där ni kan skriva era namn och egna budskap också. Den är vår gemensamma solidaritetshälsningar till Afghanistans kvinnor. Vi ser er. Vi hör er. Vi står med er. Tack för att ni är här och att ni hjälper oss att hålla dessa röster levande. Varmt välkomna till Tomma stolar, tystade röster.
So now we will start our panel. We have 4 guests in our panel, and it's mostly the focus on the panel will be on Afghanistan and Sweden's responsibilities, and also the relation between the two and ongoing and in the future. I would like to invite our guests, Farimona Wobi, Katayun Kishawarzi, Nasiba Detabar, and Alexandra Volker. Please welcome to the stage. Welcome to the panel. I would start with giving a small introduction for our panelists, and I will try to be slow. Farimona Wobi, she is an Afghan human rights international and international affairs professional, and also she is a former researcher in the Institute of Raoul Wallenberg. I hope that I pronounce it correct. And she has also worked in human rights and women rights activities in relation to Afghanistan. And she has also participated in many activities regarding the same. And then we have Ms. Katayun Kishawarzi, which she is a sociologist and based in Sweden. And her academic work is connected to the sociology and the issues regarding including the social inequality and injustice, and migration and integration. And then we have Nasiba Detabar at the end, which she is an Afghan-born human and women rights and immigration rights activist who has worked in Sweden and for the human rights and immigration rights. And she is also has been involved in Swedish political and social life. And we have Alexandra, She is a member of Swedish Parliament for the Social Democrat. She is also a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. She has raised issues concerning regarding the aids and assistance for development assistance for Afghanistan in connection with Taliban. Then we will start with the first panel, which with the first panel will be regarding the situation, the ongoing situation, the current situation of human rights or women in Afghanistan currently. And I would like to start with Farima. We know that you have direct connection with the girls and women inside Afghanistan. What are they saying to you, and what are their thoughts? What are their hopes for future?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for holding this panel. I think this is a very timely discussion, especially that personally I didn't wish to witness 5 more years. For me, it's a personal journey. Besides what happened in Afghanistan, for me it's not 5 years, it's 10 years, because I was a young girl back in 90s in Kabul when Taliban took over, and I lost 5 years of education. And now, again, added to that, 5 years of my life, my career, and as an educated woman, I lost 5 more years of serving my country. So for me, it's a decade. It's more than 5 years. And the connection that I have now in Afghanistan is mainly my personal story. I feel the pain of all those young girls that I went through back in 90s. And my generation, we went through the pain, and now our daughters are going through the same pain in Afghanistan. I will not go through every single thing that Afghan women and girls are going through, because Mr. Bennett clearly and beautifully explained it. And also, if you go through his reports, he very precisely documents everything that's happening in Afghanistan. But to be very, very shallow, let's say, women and girls in Afghanistan are completely erased from the society. Imagine a society where girls beyond 6th grade cannot go to school. Imagine a society where a woman cannot work, an educated woman cannot work. Imagine a society where women and girls cannot walk outside their homes without the company of a man. And also imagine yourself, for women here, you consider to be possession of a man or a family rather than being an independent individual in the society. And that is the story of millions of women inside Afghanistan. It's not hundreds and thousands, it's around 20 million women and girls suffering in that country. And we have heard, we have seen the messages of young girls inside Afghanistan. Those talents need to be explored, needs to be used in the society. But imagine, you cannot even walk outside your home. I remember back in 90s, I was not even able to go for my basic shoppings outside my home without the company of my dad or my brother. And this time that I cannot even imagine if I were in Kabul, if I were living in Afghanistan, what would happen to me and to my sisters and to other women inside Afghanistan. So the story of Afghan women is the most painful story that one can remember for centuries. And I'm very disappointed that in 21st century, again, our generation, my generation, we have to experience the same thing again and again. And the painful history of operation inside Afghanistan repeated once again, not in 100 years, but only just 20 years in between. And each time I talk about Afghanistan, each time I talk about women of Afghanistan, I remember myself. I remember those days that I had nothing to do in Kabul. I remember the days that we didn't have even electricity, we didn't have internet, we didn't have access to the rest of the world. Now at least there is a good opportunity that the girls and women that I am in contact with them, at least they have the opportunity to have some online education. I am teaching young girls inside Afghanistan English, and I'm very, very happy and hopeful that the way I got the opportunity to pursue my education, to become an independent woman, to travel the world and become not only a human rights advocate but also a diplomat and a teacher for generations. I have this hope, I keep the hope, and I tell my students that when I could do that, you will definitely do that. And we are hoping that one day, the way I'm sitting here in front of you and talking about millions of women in Afghanistan, those young girls and women will be able to talk about themselves, about their stories, and about their sufferings. And let's hope and let's stand with them and support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Farima. And based on what Farima described about her story and in connection with the current situation, I would like to ask Katayun, I want to know your idea. What does this exclusion of women from education, work, and public life means to Afghan society and Afghan society who are inside or outside Afghanistan?
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this. Thank you. This is very important, and I'm so happy to be here. Well, I think exclusion is a very soft word for that, because we have a government that has decrees, more than 100 decrees, and in one of the decrees they removed the legal authority of women, so they are not equal in law with men. And this is a society that gives personhood, legal personhood based on your gender, so it's gender apartheid, that's what it is. And we have to see how it's going to affect people. First of all, the unpaid work, which runs the society, the childbearing, the cooking, the relations and all that stuff. This is something that is not counted in the GDP, but at the collapse of the economic collapse that was near, it absorbed the economic collapse without being even mentioned. And in a society, the general lesson when you say that one gender is less than the other gender is that women are less worth. They're not worthy, and misogynistic ideas will be very normal. They will be normalized in years if the world doesn't do anything about it. And this reminds me also of Neera Yuval Davis' notion about borders and about nation, because according to Neera, nations mark themselves by women's bodies. They define their borders by women's bodies. And we see that in Taliban. They have these laws to confine and to limit women, to define what the collective of the nation is. It's also the ethnic side of it, that the nation is what they define. And it's too bad that women, when they come to Iran, when they move to Iran, they face the same thing. But it's about their fertility that is like the invasion, and I hope we'll talk about that. But this is what, when women become the other one, the one that is strange, the one that is not worthy, and this will affect everyday life as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Katayun. And we all, of course, agree with this situation doesn't only impact the people who are inside Afghanistan and us who are living in diaspora outside Afghanistan. And I want to ask you, Nasiba, how do you think, how does this situation impacts the women who are living in Sweden, the families who are living in Sweden or any other country outside Afghanistan?
Thank you for your question, and hello everybody. it's my honor to be here and talk about the situation for Afghan women. And then I have worked with newcomers here in Sweden many years, and the Afghan people, Afghan asylum seekers are one of the most group that I work with. And about this question, so one thing that is sometimes difficult to see from the outside is that you can physically live here in Sweden, and emotionally part of your life is still in Afghanistan. And it's very difficult to focus on your life here. When your phone rings and your family tells you about fear, about restrictions, about economic hardship, or an uncertain future, part of your life is still in Afghanistan. So this can be particularly difficult for women, especially. When you are newcomers, you have to focus on your life and your integration here in Sweden. Many are trying to learn Swedish, find a job, take care of their children, and build a new life, while at the same time worrying about their mothers, worrying about their sisters, daughters, or other relatives in Afghanistan. So for me also, I have many friends in Afghanistan right now that they worked as a teacher in the university in different organizations, but unfortunately they are at home and they can do nothing. There is also a painful contrast actually. An Afghan woman in Sweden may go to university in the morning, while her sister or cousin in Afghanistan is not allowed to attend university at all. These two realities can exist within the same family. According to my own experiences also in Swedish politics, I work with gender equality. I see the level of the discussions, and as an Afghan woman that have problem with basic rights, Afghan women's basic rights that ignored in Afghanistan. And here, when I discussed about the gender equality in Sweden, for example, about how many salary a woman should have, and what is the differences between salary between men and women here in Sweden, it is a very big contrast for me how I can balance these questions here and work with that. It's very difficult. So that is why when we talk about integration and the lives of Afghans in Sweden, especially women, we also need to understand that developments in Afghanistan continue to affect our life here, and many families living here in Sweden.
Okay, thank you, Nasiba. And continuing the same, Alexandra, I will come to you. What do you think, what responsibilities does Sweden have towards Afghan women, both inside Afghanistan and the ones who are living in Sweden? What responsibility does Sweden hold towards them?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for organizing this very important seminar. I think that it's actually a disgrace the way that Sweden as a country acts at the moment, and the current government. The fact that we have completely withdrawn the foreign aid from Afghanistan, shutting down important projects and work within the country and forcing them to shut down immediately. I think that is extremely responsible and quite shameful, actually, because I think it's very important. I mean, we worked with Afghanistan for a very long time, and we have a lot of experience within Sweden, both with people who are born in Afghanistan and others. We have a lot of experience, and we know that there is a lot of things that we can do. And sometimes in the Swedish debate, and when it comes to Swedish foreign policy, it almost sounds like Afghanistan is a lost country. It's not worth being involved. purpose, I think the argument when they decided to shut down the foreign aid. But I think it's just very clear that that's not true. I mean, the Taliban, they wanted back the country because of their military force, because of their violence, and that has nothing to do with the Afghan people. And I think it's very important to separate the two. And I also think, I mean, hearing these stories today that we heard, and also listening to Richard Bennett, but also what we've heard earlier in my work, I know that there is a lot of things, and a lot of, at least women, also trying to fight within Afghanistan and still trying to, I mean, both like education, but also really fighting for their rights. And I think it's we are letting them down when we don't support them. I think that is very shameful. So I think that Sweden should do a lot more. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I believe so. All the Sweden and other countries, foreign countries, has to do more towards Afghan women and raising their voices. Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. Now we will move to our second round of the panel, and it's mainly focusing on the women's voices and the resistance of women today in Afghanistan. And again, I want to come to you, Prima, and ask, we know despite all the restriction that Taliban has given the Afghan women throughout past 5 years, they have stayed resilient and they have spoken out. What do you think, what do they expect from international community the most, and what is the first thing that they need the most from international communities?
Thank you so much for this very important question, and I was actually expecting this question because we face these questions on a daily basis, that what we expect the women of Afghanistan. First, let me tell you something, that the advocacy and resilience that we see outside Afghanistan, it's just a mirror that we get from inside Afghanistan. You see Afghan women standing almost in every international platform talking about the situation of women and girls in Afghanistan, especially as Richard mentioned about gender apartheid and the campaign that's going on that actually comes from inside Afghanistan. It's our sisters, our families, our daughters talking inside Afghanistan with us and asking us to raise their voice, because you know, women inside Afghanistan, they cannot raise their voices the way we can. And it's them who are saying that what's going on in Afghanistan is a complete apartheid, gender apartheid. And what we talk about, like what the international community must do today, let me talk about what the international community must not do. We always talk about what to do, but no one talks about what must not do. And sometimes inactions are louder than actions. The first thing that the majority of Afghan women, especially the advocates outside Afghanistan, want the international community, especially that the country that I'm living, and I'm thankful that I have been allowed to live in Sweden for past 5 years as a political asylum. We want the government of Sweden not to recognize Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan, because Taliban are not government. They are an extremist group that they took power by force, by killing millions of Afghans and by pushing the country into hundreds of years. So this is the first thing. We don't want the Swedish government and also the international community to recognize Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan. The second thing that we don't want the Swedish government and also other European countries in particular, they should not and they must not open embassies for Taliban. They must not bring Taliban diplomats into their countries. They must not host Taliban diplomats and embassies in a country, especially like Sweden, which is the gender equality is unparalleled. The freedom that I'm enjoying in past 5 years in Sweden is, honestly speaking, it's unparalleled. And how would you bring a Talib diplomat in Stockholm, where they don't even believe in prisons or a woman's existence in this world. They don't deserve this. This is what we don't want the Swedish government to do, not only the Swedish government, but other governments as well. The third thing that we don't want to, the Swedish government and also European countries to do, don't downgrade the suffering of Afghan women, either inside Afghanistan or outside Afghanistan. We suffer equally outside Afghanistan. Imagine someone like me who started all over again when Taliban left first time back in 2001. I had to go to school, I had to get education, I had to put double effort to become someone to serve Afghanistan. And now I'm kicked out of my country. I never wanted to live in exile. I never wanted to be a refugee. I wanted to live in Kabul now. I wanted to serve my country. But today I'm living in exile. I'm struggling to learn the language. I'm struggling to get a dignified job. I'm struggling to pay my bills. So I think this is not the life we deserve. Don't downgrade our pains. Don't downgrade our lives. And don't downgrade our sufferings. The way millions of women suffer inside Afghanistan, we suffer outside Afghanistan as well. Afghanistan, after August 2021, had the largest brain drain. Educated women and men escaped Afghanistan just because wanted to be alive. So don't downgrade our sufferings. Don't just, I know that the humanitarian work is important in Afghanistan. Millions of Afghans are suffering. But besides, also stand with the women of Afghanistan, not only inside Afghanistan, but outside as well. The fourth one that I want to stress is don't keep a blind eye on the voices of Afghan women who are running this gender apartheid campaign outside Afghanistan. The gender apartheid must be codified in international law. It's not only for Afghanistan or Afghan women. Women are suffering in different countries around the world. And I think women in 21st century deserve dignified life. We deserve equality. We deserve respect. No other woman should suffer like Afghan women in 21st century that we are going through. So don't keep a blind eye on suffering of Afghan women. And finally, we must not do less and expect more. What we are doing right now with the Taliban, it's very less. And we cannot expect much because when you ignore them, when you ignore their brutality, you actually put a stamp on what they do. And when you put a stamp on what they do, you normalize it. What Taliban are doing inside Afghanistan is not normal. Even for me coming from that country, suffering the first time, it's not normal. It's not culture, it's not religion, and it's not normal. So please don't normalize Taliban. Don't make them carry what they have been doing in past 10 years. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Farina. I want to again ask Katayun, it continues to what Farina has mentioned. How important do you think it is that Afghan women can speak for themselves, even inside Afghanistan, when it comes to the discussion regarding their country and their rights? How important is that for Afghan women?
I think the most important thing is that when you have a social life in the society, we have the social life to reason about the society, to discuss the matters of the society. So when a group of people is excluded from that conversation, their problems will be removed from the discussions. So when there are only men who have no idea about domestic violence or about health that is limited to female body, when they don't know about that and they gather and they talk about subjects that are important, they never bring up the things that are very important for the women. So it's very important that women have their own voice and are part of the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Katayun. And then I think this raises up the question that who is the one who can speak and tell the story of Afghan women. and I want to ask Nasiba, what do you think is the role of Afghan diaspora and Afghans who live in Sweden currently is on keeping these voices heard and visible, the voice of Afghan women?
I think and I believe that the Afghan diaspora is an important resource that is still not being used enough in Sweden, Sweden's approach to Afghanistan. And we are not simply people who have left Afghanistan. We know and understand the needs of the people. Within the diaspora, for example, I can say that there are people who understand the languages, cultures, social structures and political realities of Afghanistan, while at the same time on the other side, understanding Swedish democracy and its political institutions, cultures, and the society also. So that knowledge is valuable. We can build bridges between women inside Afghanistan and the media here, that they can play a very important role to be voice of Afghanistan here for Swedish media, parliaments, and politicians, human rights organizations, and social or civil society in Europe. Those organizations are also very important. But we also need to be careful. Living in Europe does not give us the right to decide what women inside Afghanistan want. Our role should be to amplify their voices, not replace them. I can mention that comment from Katayon that we have to, or the European, Western and international organizations have to listen to Afghan women from inside of Afghanistan. As I said, we have to be the voice of them. When a woman in Afghanistan takes enormous risks to defend girls' education or women's rights, we can help make sure that her voice is heard in Stockholm, in Brussels, and at the United Nations, and all of the human rights organizations also.
Yeah, thank you, Nasiba. And I want to ask the last question for the second panel from you, Alexandra. What do you think Sweden, if they take an action or can do anything to support Afghan women, what can Sweden do to support Afghan women without talking on their behalf? What action Sweden can take towards Afghan women?
Thank you for that question, and I think there are several things that we could do, and I want to start with also this campaign for gender apartheid. I think that's very important, and that is also something that we as a Social Democratic Party want. So we have also raised this question with the foreign minister, and we would want Sweden to be a much louder voice within the UN for this to actually become a reality. And I think also our feminist foreign policy that we used to have, and hopefully we'll have soon again, I think that is also a very important format, because that's also, that's a collaboration between countries, and we will work together and we can do a lot more. What power would it be with 10, 15 countries who are all decided on the feminist foreign policy agenda, working together with also the Afghan women to raise issues concerning Afghanistan. I know that there are a lot of countries who would have wanted this, and I know that there are especially countries who have also really missed Sweden in this. So I think that is also something very important. But I think for me, what I really also I think it's the most important for us politicians is what Richard Bennett said, and also all of you, I think, has also talked about, is the importance of including and listening. I think Richard Bennett said that the international the international community cannot decide first and then listen. You have to do it the other way around, and sometimes we tend to do it unfortunately in the wrong way. And I think that is something that is so important, that we have to listen first and work together, and then decide on what to do. So I think also that is something that I will learn from Sweden.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. Now we will have our third panel discussion, and it will be mostly regarding, as we all know, recently Sweden had some talks with Taliban and had invited them to have discussion with them, and this we will discuss more about that, and also how some aids and supports that Sweden has towards Afghanistan and current government with the Taliban. And I want to start with you again, Ferma. What do you think the international community has succeeded in these 5 past years? In which terms did they succeed, and with in which point did they fail Afghan women?
Thank you so much. It's a very complicated question, and for me it's very emotional and personal, because I keep my diplomacy background, and to look at it from perspective of a former diplomat, what the international community has achieved in the past 5 years, especially when it comes to the situation of human rights in Afghanistan, and also the overall situation of Afghan people. I may sound very negative, but the international community has achieved nothing. When I say nothing, I have many reasons. If you look at the economy of Afghanistan, Afghanistan received almost equal money that it used to receive back in 20 years. But the number of people who are suffering, it's like 90% below poverty line. When you look at the situation of women and girls in Afghanistan, it has been 5 years that at least the medical school didn't have graduate students. So the medical system of Afghanistan is collapsing. And honestly speaking, no country can build the medical system with the aid money. It needs human resource, and the human resource comes from schools. The human resource comes from both women and men. And the international community cannot keep a blind eye on this collapsing system, which I think is the most important system in any society. When it comes to all the conditions the international community has put on Taliban, we see that it's just one-way road. It's only for Taliban gaining. The international community has gained nothing. Taliban's representatives are traveling to European countries with Schengen visas. They have been received with a lot of respect and dignity, while millions of women suffering inside Afghanistan. So for me, as a woman, as a human rights advocate, and as a former diplomat, I'm seeing that the international community is completely failing dealing with Taliban, because the engagement that they are talking about, it's not a conditional engagement. It's not, as Richard indicated, it's not a conditional based engagement where both sides should have something to win. But in case of Taliban, it's only Taliban winning. It's only Taliban who are sending their representatives in Norway and Germany. It's only Taliban who are sending their representatives in Brussels, the capital of Europe, the city that represents the European values. And I'm very sorry to say that the Swedish government supported that trip. And at the end of the day, what is the income? What's the outcome? It's all about Taliban. It's not about Afghan people. It's not about Afghan women. It's just a group that has taken the whole country hostage, and the country is collapsing. Literally, it's collapsing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferma. And I want to ask Katarina, with this, as Ferma mentioned, with the little or some level of pressure that the international community has towards Taliban, which now that's changing and going lighter. What do you think, why this pressure has not affected, has not bring any bigger or greater change inside Afghanistan and in this current situation?
I think it's more of a political science question. It's the fact is that there hasn't been any pressure on Taliban. They know that they have the free hands to do what they want to do. And by controlling women, by excluding women from the society, they can make a society that they can make men be quiet because it's a bargain. Men, now there is this mahram, for example, rule that a woman needs to go, when a woman goes out, she needs some man, a relative, a specific man, to follow her. So what does this do to the society is that women are legally dependent on their husbands, and their fathers, and their teenager sons who they have raised. So what this does is that the male society will have authority over women, but this is a bargain. This is in exchange to no future for themselves, no political voice for themselves, no economy for themselves. So this is the mechanism that works, that is at hand. So that's what's happening in the society, and what the relations are between the countries is quite unfortunate that Sweden has, I think, initiated even inviting the Taliban to Norway. And some people, when they want to criticize, as long as they criticize the Taliban, it's okay. As long as they criticize Islam and migration, is okay. But as soon as we want to talk about the situation of women, when it comes to migration to Iran or to Sweden, nobody's talking about this. Deporting people, deporting women to a country where they can't go to school, this is betraying women. And addressing them all the time as a guest, you never have the permanent permission to stay, residency permission to stay. How can you make a life here if you're going to be deported? So there are many mechanisms at hand.
Exactly. And that's it. Thank you, Katarina. And I will ask Nasiba, do you think the Swedish government or the Swedish people in the society, do they understand how critical the situation and the challenges that Afghan women face? Do they understand those challenges or not?
Thank you for the question. I think we don't fully understand the Afghan women yet. I think there is one problem here, that we have an image of Afghan woman that sometimes moves between extremes, you know. So either an Afghan woman is portrayed like victim and who needs to be rescued, and or she's expected to integrate very fast, very quickly, and simply leave behind all the difficulties that the Afghan woman had or have or has experienced. So neither picture is complete here. According to my experiences that I see the both sides, so among Afghan women, you find academics, you find workers, mothers, students, politicians, entrepreneurs, and women who have had very limited access to education with this background. And then I would like that Swedish media and institutions to spend less time talking about Afghan women and more time about talking with them. So giving them space to speak for themselves. And I think the representation matters, and it's very important. When a young girl with Afghan background sees someone like herself in a university, in the media, in leadership or in politics, she receives a, I think, very powerful message that you can, and your background is just a part of your life that you have with you, but it can't define you and define your limitation that you had or you have. It can be a part of limitation that you can develop in the future. So the impact diaspora have is not enough acknowledged. I see.
Thank you, Nasida. And I ask you, Alexandra, do you think can Sweden maintain and have necessary communication with Taliban without normalizing and legitimizing their rule? What conditions should they, you think, set when they do this communication with Taliban and when they talk to Taliban? So they do not normalize the Taliban being in power.
Well, I mean, our view has been since the Taliban took over that we should have no communication, that we should not recognize them, that we should not normalize them, that we should not have any connections with them. And this is also, I mean, this is still from a social democratic point of view, this is still our view. We think that we should not have any formal contact with them at all. We were actually quite disturbed this spring when the news came about the talks, the European talks with the Taliban. It's still a bit unclear for me what actually happens because it's kind of quite different depending on who you ask. But I mean, also the fact that they did that just straight after shutting down all the foreign aid. I mean, that combination during that at the same time, I think that is a very, very problematic action. I mean, they made organizations like Save the Children pay back funds that they have already received to do projects within Afghanistan that they had to pay back to the Swedish government because they decided that they did not longer want to do this. And then at the same time then also start having, like, did they say, technical discussions within the EU framework. I think that is very, very problematic. So I think from our view, we still have the same red line, and that we still find it very important not to normalize them, not to recognize them, and to have a very straight red line.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra, and thank you all of our panelists for your insight and perspectives. And I think we come to a conclusion that we have to continue speaking up about Afghan women and until relevant action is taken and their voices are heard. And it's not only a problem for Afghanistan, but also for the international community, one of them being Sweden. I think now we have, if from audience, anyone has any question, we can take the questions. Yes.
Hello to you. My question goes to Ms. Nawabi. You just said that international community in the past years did nothing. Don't you think that your expectation is a little bit unrealistic? And because what I'm seeing that the Taliban didn't take the power by themselves. It was a deal which the international community behind it somehow, and you expect that in the past 5 years they did nothing. I think that it was not supposed to be, because they did it the same that just wanted.
Thank you for your question. I was mainly referring to past 5 years. The international community started long ago supporting Taliban back in 2008 and 9 when I was a student in London back in 2012 and the Doha office was opened. I was one of the bullies that raised my voice that supporting Taliban and giving them a flag and an office in Qatar will eventually collapse the whole country. I divided this into before 2021 and after 2021. Yes, before 2021, unfortunately, sadly, Taliban didn't get power by themselves because they are a terrorist group, but it was the support of international community, mainly some very particular countries, that emboldened them to get power or to come back. But I'm talking about past 5 years that they did nothing, especially when it comes to human rights and women's rights. They did nothing. I give the example of collapsing economy, collapsing educational system, collapsing medical system. So that's where we see no changes while the international community is talking about supporting Afghanistan, supporting people who are suffering, especially the humanitarian aid, and we don't see any changes. That's what I'm referring to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can take 2 more questions if someone has more questions. Anyone has more questions? Then, if not, then
Okay, so I was in contact very long ago at Södertörn Högskola with Pierre Schori a bit before, when he was active in the Swedish Afghan committee, and wondering how it is the status right now with that sort of work or collaboration between Sweden and Afghanistan. Can I address the question for all of you? Yeah, yes, okay. How is the situation right now with the Swedish Afghan committee? How can they work somehow in Afghanistan at the moment, or what can they do?
yes, please.
Yeah, maybe I can say something about that. The Swedish committee, Afghan Swedish committee here in Sweden, right now they don't too much because of sanction of the Taliban, but they have a collaboration with the Norwegian Afghan Norwegian committee, and I think the doctor has the correct answer. Exactly.
Thank you very much. If I understood the question correctly, what the status of Svenska Afghanistan Committee currently is. So, as all know that we had been shut down by mid 2003, but still with the support of local authorities, we continued the essential services delivery, since that was a very huge organization working in Afghanistan, until mid 2024, when we decided, unfortunately, we have to phase out. And that's why we closed our operations. But within that time, there were certain programs that were being supported by Sweden with a longer term development support of Sweden. Then those programs cannot be shut down or handed over, more specifically that very huge and comprehensive support to persons with disabilities. And then we had to find some temporary measures of transferring those programs to other actors. So not to doubly punish the persons with disabilities, and that's why the program was transferred to Norwegian Afghanistan Committee. But what was very painful in that process, I think Alexandra pointed that out, that was the phase out of that bilateral development strategy. That exactly meant collapse of those 20 years of investment in supporting persons with disabilities. And then we, as Svenska Afghanistan Committee, could maintain that program until end 2025 with solidarity, with the help of fundraising and other measures. But unfortunately, Sweden phased out its bilateral development cooperation strategy, and that program at the moment has mostly collapsed. We could only maintain the continuing to support children with disabilities, and there were other programs. Now, to keep it short, then at the moment we are still engaging in Afghanistan, but with a different modality of support. Before we were a direct implementer or service deliverer, but at the moment in coordination we have achieved a new registration in the country as of February this year, and the main modality is that we support other organizations, mainly working with local organizations and local partners, and still our priority target groups is women, persons with disabilities, and children and other vulnerable groups, still prioritizing rural Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So we are kind of back, but with a different modality of operation.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think our time's up, and I will invite. Thank you again, panelists. Thank you.